FM Network.
Olá, roqueiros e roqueiras desse Brasil, tudo bem com vocês? Aqui é a Luiza e no episódio de hoje a gente recebeu duas pessoas maravilhosas lá do podcast Convidades. Jay e Nessa vieram dar uma conversa com a gente sobre a comunidade LGBTQIA+, dentro da inicial, dentro do hóquei e várias outras coisas super interessantes. Então continua aí e escuta a nossa conversa. Vocês já sabem que o TTG faz parte do FN Network, mas vocês já conhecem os outros podcasts da rede? Para quem gosta de NFL, a gente tem o Diário NFL, que fala da liga mais popular dos Estados Unidos. Para quem gosta de basquete, tem o No Hora, para falar da NBA. Além do TTG, o Icecast lá da NHL Brasil também fala sobre a NHL. E na MLB, a rapaziada do Rebatida cobre a maior liga de beisebol do mundo. Além dos podcasts gerais de cada liga, o FNN tem vários focados em times específicos. Quer ouvir as últimas notícias do seu time? Vai lá no somosfnn.com.br para ver se também pode do seu time. Para não perder nenhum episódio, segue o @somosfnn em todas as redes sociais. E esquece também de seguir o TTG em todas as redes sociais com o @Tic-Tac-Gol. Essa entrevista está lá no YouTube, legendada para todo mundo poder ver no youtube.com/Tic-Tac-Gol. Então vai lá, dá um view e já se inscreve no nosso canal.
Hello guys, how are you doing today? I'm here with Lari and Camilla that everyone already knows, and we're here with very special guests from the Over the Glass podcast, Nessa and Jay. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Thanks for having us.
Hi guys. It's been a while.
This is weird. We're usually the ones asking questions.
Yeah.
We're literally
The camera has been flipped.
we're literally recording in another language. Usually just talk to each other in Portuguese, so it's
Yes.
I'm feeling a little bit
We appreciate you guys talking in English, or this would be a very awkward conversation.
I don't know what's happening.
I will have flashbacks to childhood where I'm like, oh, this is adult speaking. I'm going to go in the other room now.
We don't want any childhood trauma, please. Not here. So we're here with Nessa and Jay today because we are doing a very special episode, as everyone know. June is our beautiful, amazing, and unfortunately very sad as well, Pride Month. And we always do something here at Tic-Tac-Gol where we try to bring guests that are a part of our community and have space to talk about, have more pizzazz to talk about this subject than most of us. So last year we had Brock McGillis, and this year we have amazing company as well. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Larissa is feeling so awkward, you can tell by your reactions. Yeah. Usually I'm the one that's like just talking and not stopping ever. So it's kind of weird. But it's because I mentioned that we should ask you to be on the show before I even knew Luiza was working with you.
Oh,
Because I was already watching. So I was like, oh guys,
Oh.
this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh,
you listen,
thank
did
you.
you listen
Oh,
to
thank
it? Whatever.
you.
And Luiza was like, well,
I know them.
I kind of
I
know
know
them.
them.
Take a picture.
No big deal.
So when she did the episode with you, like I was the first person who was like, okay, it's my turn. It's my time.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. And she's like, Islanders Brazil. I'm like, yes. New York Islanders Brazil reference again. Yes. I love this. Because I'm also from the New York Islanders Brazil team.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Okay.
yes, this is Islanders representation.
Yeah, we try to get a little bit of representation for different teams on the podcast, even though we're big Sharks fans, but we're trying to stay relevant for everyone, not just our little fan base over here.
Yeah, and we also have a Sharks fan in our team. She's not
Oh.
with us today,
Where is
Bruna.
she?
Bruna. I'm sure she's watching some game of some sport because she watches so many different sports, and I think she's doing something right now.
Yeah.
She usually doesn't record. She's our
Yeah.
Instagram girl.
Gotcha.
Well,
Well, shout out to her.
yeah.
Shout out to her.
But we're here today to talk about pride. So let's start with talking about your experience as part of the community and part of the hockey community, because we all know it's a tricky relationship, right? And we all know that the NHL lacks a lot of oh God, what is the word?
Representation.
Representation. Thank you. Oh my God, my head today. So we wanted to see your perspective and talk a little bit about that. And yeah.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Formula One. No, but there's a Netflix hit show called Drive to Survive. And I remember there was a season that Lance Stroll, he's a Canadian driver, and he's a Habs fan. I remember that he said something like, you love a sport that doesn't love you back. Obviously, he's not talking about the subject we are going to discuss here, but I thought it was a nice, I thought it was a nice sentence, because that's, I think that a lot of us think about hockey, because we like a sport that doesn't welcome us, that doesn't respect us. So, like Luiza said, what was the moment that you guys realized that maybe hockey wasn't for everyone? Because when we started watching, we don't know anything about it. We don't know like the rules and just going along. And then you start realizing maybe the league doesn't like you, doesn't welcome you. So, because I know that you guys are Sharks fans, and then I thought this season there was something really nice that happened with the organization. But to start, when was the moment that you guys realized that maybe hockey wasn't welcome? That was so sad, but
yeah. Very loaded question to start with.
So heartbreaking, but let's go.
I'm not sure if I can pinpoint the moment, and I think that comes with a lot of privilege from my end. I've grown up in rather progressive parts of the country, and when I started playing hockey, after I graduated high school, I think even if there was something happening like in the locker rooms, like it didn't really register for me. There weren't really like moments in my experience. And like I said, I was very lucky in there that I grew up in. And even when I started watching the Sharks, the fans and the friends that I would make along the way were as inclusive as they came off to me. And it wasn't until I really started growing into myself as a queer person, as a non-binary person, when I started really diving into more of the human rights issues in the world, and I started seeing how those don't align with how hockey is treating folks. And when you start following other people, like on social media, and they start expressing how they feel in other parts of the world, and even with this stuff with like Pride nights, like when they first started, I was thinking like, okay, this is kind of nice, but like, what are you doing about it outside of trying to sell me merchandise with rainbows on it for like a whole month, and then maybe you don't say anything about anything for like the rest of the year? And so when they first started doing it, it was just kind of nice. You kind of got a little flutter in your stomach, like, oh, they might see me. And over time, when that just continues to just be the status quo, where just every June or every Pride night that they put together, or I think before when they first started, it was called Hockey is for Everyone. So it kind of felt like you're kind of including me, but you're not quite saying it in the language that I feel would be better representative of what you're actually trying to promote. And over time, then it just starts feeling incredibly performative. And as we've seen in the recent season, where they're now retracting from it and they're like rolling over in their words of like why they're doing it, like I think over time you start seeing that there's this problem, and more so it feels like in hockey than in other sports, especially like women's sports. Like the NWSL is like does a great job of not only finding new innovative ways to uplift and support the community, but they also get, you know, their teammates who there are several queer people on NWSL teams, that it just feels more genuine than really anything that hockey seems to be doing. And I just feel like it's a important thing to talk about. And but yeah, like I said, it just when I started realizing that there's this issue, like a lot of it came from privilege of not having to face that every day.
On my end, I don't think it had anything to do with Pride nights. I think the first time I started realizing hockey wasn't for everyone was when the Sharks announced their Hispanic Heritage Night. And this was when I was more active on Facebook. And I saw, you know, people on Facebook are a different species. There's so much hate on that platform. Like, Twitter's problematic, but Facebook is like people join specifically to spew hate.
Yeah.
I remember they announced it and I was all excited, and then I saw someone commenting like, why do you have to have a Hispanic Heritage Night? We're in America, or something dumb like along those lines. Something, we don't need to learn Spanish in San Jose. And I'm like, you just saying the name of the city is you speaking Spanish. Like, I don't understand. Like, what point are you trying to make here? As I was like following hockey more, I started realizing that it's not just the specific heritage nights. It's like literally everything. People don't like change in this sport. They don't like to see people who are different from them. Everything has to be very cookie cutter, I've noticed in this hockey culture. When I first saw Hockey is for Everyone night, I was actually very excited. Like, oh, you know, there's somewhat of a Pride Night thing going here. It's not called Pride Night, but it includes queer folks. And I was a bit naive in that for a few years. And then I started realizing, when I found out about Brock McGillis, I started following hockey more with a different lens. And I was like, oh, it's not as great as I thought it was. Like, there could be more. They could do more to like include and like to actually help the community and stuff. And this year was actually the first year that a lot of teams decided to call it a Pride Night. And so I was really excited for that at the beginning, like, of the season when they announced their promotional schedules. And then everything with the Flyers happened and everything started spiraling, and it's disappointing, but it's also not surprising with the political climate that we're dealing with here in the States.
When you said about the whole Spanish thing, I remember recently it was just announced that Messi is going to Inter Miami in the MLS. And there was this guy, I don't know which TV, what network it was. He was like, what I'm really worried about is he doesn't know how to speak English. He
Doesn't have to.
he doesn't know. I did the exact same thing I did right now. When I listened, I was like, there's no way. It's like, Messi. He needs to speak English to play Inter Miami. I was like,
Name's bigger than the entire league.
I know.
So it doesn't have to.
oh my
That's
God.
like people are so clueless because like even in baseball, you have a lot of Dominican players that don't speak any English. You know, Shohei Ohtani even has his own translator. Like it's not a problem. They're there to play a sport, not to speak to you.
Exactly.
Also, his teammates can learn other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Not necessarily his language, but I don't know. Like I don't like this idea. Exactly what you said about the league doesn't want to change. I think that's the scariest part, especially for us. There are fans in Latin America, like they don't care about us, but so like
yeah.
America doesn't care about us either.
they don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting what I think it was Jay that said about the Pride nights, because at the beginning I had the same feeling Nessa had about the whole hockey's for everybody and all of that, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And then I started actually looking at it, and I was like, yeah, this might not be nice. And we talked about this on the podcast when I went over, and we were like talking about disappointments and all of that. And it is something that you look at and you think, this is not for us, right? It's not for us. It's for them. It's for their own conscience and being like, okay, we did it. That's it. Let's move on. So
That's
Not
what
as
I
inclusive as we thought it would be.
yeah.
I think the worst part of the season is that they're not trying to be performative anymore. Like after the Flyers thing, when they start, oh, my religious beliefs, and a lot of players came out and say the same thing. We're like, oh, they not try anymore. So
yeah. But we have a very strong community in San Jose, that, and they have a really strong like ideal for their team. So how is your point of view on that? Like they usually do Pride nights, they usually do a lot of celebratory things, and you guys as Sharks fans, of course, you guys know better than us, but what is your view, like not only of the league but of your own team and everything that happened throughout the year? So how was experiencing this season for you guys
Outside of the actual hockey?
yeah
I mean, I have such a soft spot for the Sharks, so I don't know. I have a bias, but also Jay and I have a very small connection to the president of the Sharks, and so we can see that he actually tries to be inclusive with a bunch of different causes, not just Pride nights. You know, like he tries to be involved with the community. So I can see from their point, like they're trying in certain ways, but there has to be some sort of obstacles that keep them from doing something that makes us feel like, okay, this is enough. There's just things that we don't see that's going on behind the scenes. But I think the Sharks are one of the few teams in the league that are actually like genuinely trying to make progress.
yeah that's
And I
something-
will say with the Pride night that happened this season, I mean the one big negative was Reimer deciding that he wasn't going to wear it. And I really wish they didn't make that fancy looking graphic with his statement, because none of that was needed. But with that said, I mean, Nessa went to that game, and you know, sounds like she had a really good time there. And the Sharks Twitter, the social media manager, also spent the whole night putting out tweets that were basically informing folks about queer folks and things that are very educational and helpful to discuss. And I want to say that another sports team not in the NHL has done this before. And I think that's just such a impactful and, really easy way to elevate the night and really show that you aren't just trying to put on this event where people are going to give you money and, you get to pretend like you care for like a couple of hours. Like I think, especially with what happened this year with several other teams, like the Sharks and pretty much like the whole West Coast and then a couple of other teams here and there, like did, in my opinion, a pretty good job of the journey from when they first started doing hockey to everyone to now really starting to think of ways of how can we expand and elevate this and really show that this is a night for everybody, and then a way to educate folks who may not be as informed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this is really stupid, but like yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw that Charlie McAvoy and his fiance went to the Pride in Boston, and someone said that Drake, the pop star, couldn't do it, couldn't try. I don't know, like, I know it's stupid, but I don't know if you guys are familiar that even Provorov's girlfriend has like a puppy that is Insta famous and everything. And when he said that he wouldn't wear the Pride shirt and Larissa's laughing because she followed this. Like she used their puppy's Instagram that is famous on social media to say everyone is welcome on our page and everything. I was like, oh my God, she doesn't wanna lose her, I don't know, like 100K million. I don't know like how many followers that like the puppy has. So like she was desperate not to miss anything. So I don't know. Like, that's her concern, that.
Yeah.
Damage control.
And audience.
No, but I think it goes along to show it's a very, I mean, it's a sad thing that happened, but it's very funny that like just the whole puppy thing. I love that. Like, there's no way. It's not possible this is happening right now. But I think it shows how I mentioned this on the episode that we did here on our podcast about the Pride Nights and the whole thing that happened. We followed it through a couple of teams. And these are two things. Politically, the entire world is going through a very, very difficult and very, very strong, like, discrimination rampage. So we see in everywhere around the world, you have fascist governments in Europe, you have different parties that are not almost similar to Nazi parties going up, and things are happening, even in when we used to see in European football leagues that they had like jerseys and the armband. Yeah. And it wasn't like no one talked about it. Right now, you start to see a little bit more. But I think when that happens, you see a lot from the fans, and not even just queer fans, fans in general, organizations surrounding the sport. You see tons of protest surrounding that. I think football is one of the examples that we have that the fans are more political in a way. Like, you see these things, but the thing is, we're seeing political uprising of like far right and everything, but it's all through money. So it's not just like, okay, bad people in general just going even more bad. There's money involved. There's people who have companies, billionaires, financially putting money into this kind of discourses, and the NHL is owned by a bunch of billionaires. So I think it's natural, kind of, It's a consequence that we would see. But the thing is, I think the NHL is very amateur in dealing with it, because I said the example of the football league, the one guy or two guys who didn't want to put the jersey on. Well, if you're not capable of putting the jersey on that we're going to play in, you're not playing. And that's just it. They just didn't put the guy to play, kept shut about it. We're not talking about it. You're not going to play. We'll discuss that later. We're not talking about that. I think even in the whole branding aspect, the part of the branding and the marketing of the NHL is very amateur in dealing with that stuff. Like for one side, you can have more fans to sell more stuff and to win more money. And the other side, you have a very poor case of public relations that you don't know how to deal with. And they don't know how to deal with one side or the other or anything that's happening. They just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, there's no in between, right? Like there's nothing there to separate things.
If they don't want to support Pride Night, nothing will happen to them. But you don't see players refusing to be part of the military appreciation night, so that's a whole deal. Because when I started watching, I wasn't familiar with the concept of playing the national anthem before the game, because we don't have this in football, like we don't. And then I wasn't familiar with the concept of using shirt. Like I understand use the Pride Night shirt, but like why do you have to see them doing warm-ups with military appreciation nights and stuff like that? So they usually use the excuse of, we can, like the player doesn't have to use the pride shirt because it's something political. If he doesn't feel comfortable to do this statement, okay, but also use using a military appreciation shirt, he's doing a political statement, but he doesn't feel comfortable using the Pride Night. So like the NHL doesn't punish the players. You don't see backlash when they try to do this.
One of the things that kind of started the journey for me and Nessa to eventually start our podcast was the project that happened a couple of summers ago with Brock McGillis and other members of the queer community, when June came along and the NHL was like, for this month, we're going to uplift allies of, the LGBTQ plus community. And Pride is about celebrating queer folks. Like the allies are there to help uplift us, but the month of June should not be devoted to people who help us. Like it kind of just seems like you're aware of it and you're trying to think of something to do, but your scope of interest is only, as far as you can see, like in, up ahead of you. And from all of that, queer people decided, hey, we're just going to take it upon ourselves to put our stories out there and to show that these stories are here. You just aren't trying hard enough. You don't understand the concept of Pride Month. And so when you say that the NHL is very amateur, it just like there in itself is an example. Like you don't even understand what Pride Month is all about. And it's not that there aren't the stories out there. You're just not trying to find them.
And what we discussed this, us here from Tic-Tac-Gol, I think last year. And we maybe discussed it with Brock as well. But what would you guys do if you were the NHL and you were like, let's come and let's hug this community and bring them into hockey? Because there's so much they can do and they won't. And we want to hear you guys. What is your opinion on that?
Hire people of color.
Yeah, pretty much. We need to add more color in a lot of different ways. Like my dream for like just Pride Night alone, I feel like they could have a huge mini Pride outside of the arena, throw like a big old party, make it like a queer safe space. And then like just celebrate with all different kinds of foods. I don't know. Everything is always made better with food for me.
Within that party, like bring, I don't know, local businesses that are owned by queer people. It's literally so easy. It's right there for them. It's right there.
In
for them.
the social media era that we are living, it's just so easy to find people that are involved with the community. Like when Nessa said the tours, I think it's a safe space. They don't want to create this safe space to everyone to feel welcome. I think that's the saddest part. Like they don't want you to be involved at all.
The problem with having these sort of like celebrations anywhere outside is that you're going to have people protesting against it. It happens at every Pride event I go to. There's always someone there standing and freaking yelling out scriptures from the Bible saying that, oh, you're all going to go to hell. Like, you don't want to hear that when you're trying to celebrate yourself, you know?
It's not funny, but it's just the picture of them outside. It's like those.
Yes, with the Bible.
Oh, God. People are so out of touch. It's ridiculous. Yes.
To piggyback off of what Luiza said about, partnering with, local businesses and getting the community involved, it reminded me of when the Devils were in the playoffs, and you know how like for revenue they've been doing sponsors and stuff on their helmets, and I don't remember what it was on the helmet, but it caught my interest on the Devils helmet, and I asked Jude, who's also one of our colleagues in Hockey Tomorrow, because they're a Devils fan. I was like, oh, what's this decal that they're wearing? And apparently the Devils, for I think the entire season, they've been using that space on their helmets to promote Black-owned businesses in the New Jersey area. And, you have like the other teams that have got like maybe big names on there and stuff like that. But that's just like another way to, like, even when like the Leafs, for their Pride Night, they had like a rainbow decal. And I mean, historically, they haven't worn the jerseys, but, with everybody's thoughts on how the jersey's been handled this year, like that's just another way to go about it. And I think it's great to do the decal in contrast with maybe the jersey, because the jerseys are only worn during the warmups. And like, unless you're actually at the game or catching pregame when they do like a quick, like, oh, look what we're doing tonight, like you don't see it. And to have it on that helmet like the whole time, and then, maybe even merging the two things with promoting a queer business and then having that on your helmet, like there's so many innovative ways that they could support all these communities, but they're just towing this line of like trying to be relevant and maybe testing the waters, and then trying not to anger like all these like hateful people,
the conservatives of the lot. Well, so one of the things we talked about on our podcast today is like for baseball, some of the teams like the Giants and the Dodgers, I noticed, do a patch for whatever event that they're doing. Yesterday, the Giants had their Pride night or Pride event. It wasn't nighttime. Their Pride event, and they had the their logo, the SF, and it was in the Pride flag colors. So like, if they don't want to do the whole jerseys thing in the NHL, why not do something like a patch? It's not going to get in the way. It's just there.
Yeah. And it's like,
although the jerseys are funner.
Yeah, the jerseys are amazing. And one thing that I really liked about the Leafs helmet thing is that they don't auction it. Like the fact that they auction those game worn jerseys is like the end for me. I'm like, dude, you have donate that to queer fans. Like, there are so many cool things that you can do with that. But most of them don't donate the money that they get from the auctions, which is also like, why? This is an opportunity, and if they did that for the entire season, that would be great as well. And now Kyle Dubas, which is probably the head behind the idea, is gone. So let's see how that's gonna pan out for them. Anyway.
Don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up for the Leafs this season.
wasn't the Leafs or the Canucks that had like a drag queen show before the game?
Yeah,
The
I think it was the
Canucks,
I
Leafs.
think it was Toronto. Yeah,
Yeah,
That
Toronto.
was
They-
so sick.
they had
cool.
the drag shows going on in intermissions.
Oh, that's
What
Yeah.
Lisa said about the fact that they don't donated the helmets and stuff like that. I was thinking that queer fans are so active on social media. So imagine if the teens, I don't know, if the teens are missing an opportunity to try to grow. We always talking about like what that the NHL isn't doing anything to grow the game. But imagine if they like open doors to more queer fans, like the social media boom would be amazing. You know, but they're not interested. They want to remain a farmers league. That's
Well, it's
Yeah.
like even during the All-Star game, they tried to do the whole influencers, like, oh, look at these like social media things, like we're hip, we're inviting these people. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying that the ones that they invited weren't good options. It's just when I looked at the lineup and I was like, that is a lot of lack of color. Yeah.
It's a lot of white straight people.
The way you described it, Jay, makes it sound like the NHL is the old man of the sports groups.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
They're so behind on the
your
times.
old conservative uncle who gets drunk and starts like just
Like, how do you work
saying the
this?
most absurd shit. Like you're like, yeah, okay. You're like, stop.
on a spectrum. Like NHL would be like progressive, and NHL would be like right here.
You know why?
What
It's because
what is that
we need
meme? Like SpongeBob with that like color, like the different colors on it. It's used for like when people are trying to make a comment about like police brutality. But
Oh,
one
that's
for
from
like the
Family Guy.
from
is it
Family
what?
Guy.
Family Guy.
Family
Oh, it's
Guy.
Family Guy. My bad.
Yeah.
One of the other
Yeah.
cartoons.
It's like a swatch
just-
of
Yeah, and like the NHL would just have like even less shades.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've
sad.
had like friends of mine who are not like who don't watch hockey, and they go watch it with me sometimes, or they see me commenting and they ask me like honestly, they ask me, why everyone white? Why is everyone white? I'm like,
That's a good question.
where do I start? Like,
Different reasons.
How much time do you have?
yeah.
Especially because we are from Brazil, and like football is our main sport, and so like we are used to see all kinds of people. And then when I started watching hockey, I was like, why is everyone the same? They all look the same. None of them look like me. So I don't know, it's so strange, so off-putting.
It is. And it's scary as well. When I started watching and I started following it, and I was like, there's no Latino here. There's barely any Black people. And I started watching, really sat down to watch it in the 2020 playoffs, the bubble. And there was the whole George Floyd thing happening and all of that. And I saw the hockey alliance. I forgot the middle.
Hockey
Well,
Diversity Alliance.
Yeah, the Hockey Diversity Alliance. And I was like, that's so cool. And then I started reading about it. And I was like, why isn't the NHL helping them? Like, why isn't them a part of the organization? And it's just so frustrating. And I talked about this with Hockey of Tomorrow. I talked about this at the Over the Glass podcast. But it's such a huge opportunity. Like, you have the Latino community is huge and very welcoming to sports. The queer community is huge, and we love sports as well. It's not because we like to wear glitter sometimes that we don't like to watch sports as well. And and it's so frustrating because there's so much to be explored. There's so much to be explored, and they just won't.
Yeah.
Choose to
The
move
NHL.
on.
Imagine if the shirts were available. We would buy everything if it was available for us.
Yeah, because it's kind of, I think I was like looking at the prices. If you convert and if you try to like adapt the price to us, it would be kind of the same price that like official football jerseys are here. So we buy jerseys all the time here. We would buy like hockey ones, but we know
Yeah.
it's safe to arrive in our houses. And we're not going to
Honestly,
get
the
scammed.
NHL should learn with Taylor Swift that already sold out all 3 of her shows here, and people are insane, me included, trying to buy merch to go to the show. So if they brought anything here, it would be a success. Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. I could talk about this forever. Me and Larissa, we talk about this in the regular. Like, we're always talking, and we're always like, they could do this, they couldn't do that.
Put ice on Allianz, the football stadium in São Paulo.
Yeah.
That's it. You put
That's-
ice in Australia, you can put ice in Brazil. I swear we would travel to see it.
To see it.
Just to
Because
see
it's such a fast-paced sport. It's so easy to watch, and they simply, I don't know, like they're not interested in gathering another market and stuff like that.
I see that, like, for instance, here, people watch a lot of other sports, like North American sports, North American leagues, but they like constantly shit on the NHL. Like, oh, you talk about like NBA, NFL, MLB, and they're like, oh, NHL doesn't even exist. Like, they don't care, and they think it's nothing because the TV is also a little bit like you don't see as much, and also because they have nowhere to see it. Like, they have no place they can see the games and how it's played, because out of all the sports, North American sports, the NHL is probably the one that's most similar to like our culture in like the way we like sports and the way we cheer for sports. If they have Brazilians, if they have a team to cheer for and a team to hate, then they're set. Like, give them something, they will do it. Give them one Brazilian, he doesn't even have to play. He just have to be a little funny on social media. He's like, oh, a player for this team. You have like hundreds of fans of that. Like, you know, it's so easy to do. And I think the NHL lacks, and it kind of goes into, it's a little bit lighter on the other topics that we mentioned here. I think NHL misses fun. I think the NHL has such a fun sport, but they don't put fun into other parts of the game. Like, you can do so much, but just being like a little funny and look how funny we are. And they don't do that.
Well, so if it's funny because we kind of touched on this earlier. If a player has a personality, the hockey people will label them as having a personality issue, a character. What did they call it? What were we talking about? The character, the problematic character.
It's seen as like a negative to, you know, the whole concept with like the toxic hockey cultures, you know, they're groomed from a very young age that like you're here to play this sport and you're part of this team, but then being part of this team means that you're basically not trying to outshine or you know, and like that whole kind of mindset prevents players from actually expressing who they are outside of being a hockey player. And so for somebody to step outside of the norm, it's seen as problematic, and you should be concerned about that because, oh no, they're not going to follow the system. They're not all about hockey. And so we might have a problem with them. And I think that's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, but it's like when a player supposedly has a personality that they think is problematic, like what we were talking about with Mitchkov earlier.
They were mentioning how he will call for the puck and get upset when someone doesn't pass it to him. But one of the stats that I saw was that he's very good on the power play, so why wouldn't you be passing it to him? So I can see how somebody who's trying to help the team and has done that time after time might get a little frustrated that he's probably wide open, ready for the shot, and maybe his teammates don't see him. But it's not that I imagine it's not that they're ignoring him, but in that moment you're like frustrated that darn, I had this opportunity. But from the way that people are trying to shape that is, he's going to be a problem because he gets really upset and angry on the ice, and you don't want that on your team.
Yeah. So
And then
just
they
showing
get
you,
close.
Here, but we'll suck the life out of you. That's the main part.
yeah, you can't show any glimpse of personality because then people say that you're problematic in the sport. Like Trevor Zegras, when he first started coming onto the scene, people were like, what is this kid doing? Like, why is he trying to outshine the rest of the team? But now it's like people love him because he has such a marketable personality. Him. And
I mean,
then
Which the league would give
do.
both siders some space as well, because they usually go to the North American players, so they forget about the other players. But I think like Sider from Red Wings, he's so fun and he's so open. He has like
He's so charismatic
personality, and I wish the league would give him some space. Like he won the Calder last year. They couldn't have done something with him and stuff like that. They missed the opportunity, especially with the All-Star game. It's so easy. Just do some program with the youngsters and you can call Zegras and stuff like that. Players there are not part of the main lineup. It's just so easy to up some little space and they are not interested.
I think the concept of All-Stars is the fact that you're trying to not have these players have personalities and then one weekend out of the year, you're like, hey, come goof off with us. It's like, but you told me not to do this all year. And then, and then it just looks so awkward because I get it. Like some players just don't want to be there. So then maybe change the setup of it and actually have these players like a Zegras, or even I can't think of another player off the top of my head right now, but there are players who would enjoy this moment, and it's just the way that they market that whole weekend. It's just so awkward.
Yeah,
the players, a lot of the players don't want to be there.
This season specifically was so bad. Like, oh my God, I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this. It was so awkward. I mean, last season was better. Like this is, I don't know, it's so bad.
Yeah, the Kachucks would be good, and then who's the Sabres kid? The Sabres kid who does the between two stalls.
Skinner,
Jeff Skinner. Yeah,
yes,
he's not a kid anymore. Like he's 30.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying he has the personality that would go great for something the All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'm still a kid. I'm just kidding.
It's amazing. It's so awkward. I love it. It's just so fun to watch.
Yeah.
It.
It's so funny.
And honestly, that entire team is very funny. I know they suck right now, but they are so funny. They're adorable.
No, they don't, Luiza. They're better now. Don't say anything about this.
They're a lot better now.
They're closer to the playoffs than we. So
True. But there are so many smaller teams on the NHL that have amazing personalities.
I think Ottawa will make some changes maybe now. I don't know how's the sale. I think I heard there are some issues, but I don't know. I think Brady, I don't know, they have enough players. They like to be on focus. So
Detroit with Sider on his rookie year, they got him and Joe Villano. They were roommates in Europe, and they did a little podcast for them, and it was super
Mojo
funny.
Show.
Yeah, the Mojo Show. And now Buffalo did the Between the Styles thing with Jeff, and people are so creative in these smaller markets, but they're going to focus on freaking Connor McDavid from the Edmonton Oilers, who
or not
I love Connor, so I can agree with you. So
yeah.
Like,
most
he's a
vanilla-
great
No,
player.
no. But
He's a great
even
player, but
Because
he's
I
so
think
boring.
Connor is like
so
Messi.
boring.
Messi doesn't have like a huge personality, but everyone knows who he is. And I think the NHL is missing. I think just like Snoop Dogg said. He said if Connor was, I think Snoop Dogg said something about maybe everyone in North America should know Connor McDavid's name, maybe they don't. So Snoop was like how are you're not promoting the best hockey player in the world?
I think Messi has a personality. McDavid doesn't.
I think he's showing more now. I think
Yeah.
when he was maybe in Connor's age, he was more shy. Now he's more comfortable in
Yeah.
on be like
He's secure.
Right.
He's secure. So
yes,
he's
more
so
secure.
responsible.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Camilla. He's won the trophies. Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Has
I don't need
not.
to say.
yeah.
Just kidding.
But he won the World Cup last year when he was 35. So it wasn't. Connor's like 26. There's time. There's time.
We're not
Okay,
starting
but-
this. We're not starting this.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Because I'm comparing them.
I do
Yes,
think the
but-
NHL has a hard job promoting
NHL
their
doesn't
players.
let the players to go to the Olympics. There's like the major.
Oh my
event.
god, yes. Oh, the first thing that I would do is put them in the Olympics. Olympics is such a like an open door to like everyone knowing anything. Like
Yes.
I'm always the biggest fan of curling whenever the Olympics are on. I'm like,
Yes.
yes, I love
That's
it.
like the
I forget
easiest
the rules
way
up until
to
it's
get
the
more
Olympics.
things.
Yes.
And then once it's done, I'm like, I forget the rules again and I have to relearn them next time.
Exactly. I think they
But
should
it's the
do.
only event that people will wake up at 2 a.m. to watch some games. So just let your players go to the Olympics because they will love it.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
only like I think like ice sports, like winter sports that we would watch on like open television. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
they're not on cable. Like we would be like put on the biggest like channel in Brazil, and there would be like the Winter Olympics on. Like, look at what
And I
that could do.
bet the audience would be like bigger than the cup finals right now. They're like having 3 million people watching. If our biggest TV market would put some hockey game on, there'll be like 10 million people watching easily.
Yeah.
So easy.
There
Mhm.
would be. But
I think
yeah.
that we should do something with the NHL that's similar to Drive to Survive that Camilla mentioned in the beginning. Drive to Survive, for everyone that doesn't know, it's a show on Netflix following the Formula One season, which me and Camilla are big fans of. And it's so like you see the drama, you see the people fighting, you see their own teams like fighting each other. You see the guy who puts the money and the team's like boss, like you could say GM, being like, we suck. And he's like, you have to win. I'm going to fire you. This is type of stuff we see on this show. And sometimes
And I think, yes, I'm sorry, Larissa. And since Drive to Survive start airing, I think they added 2 more races in the United States. That's how big the show became. Like 2 more races.
Yeah.
They used to have like Dallas at the end of the season. Now they have Miami and Vegas will start this season. So that's how big it became in the United States. And you see, like NHL is not interest.
we need more drama queens in
Yeah.
the NHL.
For drama queen?
That's what we need. We need
We need
drama.
to replace
We
Gary
need-
Bettman is what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm just saying the whole, like, in all these conversations that we've had since starting the podcast, like it all comes back down to hockey culture. It's like these players, like they have personalities. It's just if they start out with hockey at such a young age, it's like they get told, no, your personality is like you keep that out of the locker room. We don't need that. Like that's a distraction. Like you're just supposed to focus on hockey. And like I want to do a shout out to the Sharks, because in last year they hired our new social media manager, and she's been doing an amazing job of really trying to put out what little personalities like the players aren't going to give, and maybe over time they're going to feel more comfortable and like want to show more of it. And then Amanda Kane, who's the new manager of photography, like she has this whole photo series where she'll take out the players who are willing and like, hey, show us like what you like you like fashion, do you like, you know, certain dining, like what part of you has nothing to do with hockey, and I'm gonna elevate that and I'm gonna show it to your fans. And one of the things that she told us when she was on was that she's really looking forward to when Thomas Bortolo and William Eklund come up onto the Sharks, because she did like a photo shoot with them to promote the new merch that the Sharks were releasing, and they were totally comfortable with like, yeah, I'm gonna pose, I'm gonna like be hip and whatever. And it's like you can see the shift with the newer generation, and then you go like the whole old man hockey. Like there is the potential, it's just we're still battling this stupid toxic hockey culture that like the players are, you know, in this tug of war with. And I think it's hard to look at it as a whole, but just from my perspective with how the Sharks have been handling it, it comes from like within the organization. The organization has to kind of buy into this concept of we want this as our image. And then you've got other teams, especially with like the way that they've managed their Pride nights, you can see that, oh, you're just about the business, you're just about hockey, you don't actually care about this other stuff, you're just here to win. Versus
Islanders.
Well, yeah.
Yes. No, like it's the most boring team. I love them so much, but it's the most boring team that there is. Like the best part about the Islanders are the fans.
Yeah.
But the organization itself, and obviously shout out to Amorello.
Larissa can go one podcast without mention their GM. Like I know everything about him because she always talking about.
Seriously, the whole no beard thing. We go over that. Like, oh, okay, you have all these very very ugly players that he doesn't let them have their beards on. It's and then if it's not the playoffs, no like Sue pictures. What are you doing? That's the best part of playoffs, especially for us that are like eliminated. Like, why? He's just so minimalistic. Like, okay, sorry. You can go back.
Whoops.
Opened up that can of worms.
My bad.
I'm just so
Well,
like
my team is the Lightning, and I don't know. I don't think they're like, come on, they won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And I don't see like NHL giving them a lot of attention. Like maybe now with the Panthers on the finals, they're like talking about more. They're talking about more about Florida and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. They always focus on some teams like the Maple Leafs, and they all forget. They forget about the other team. I think the Bruins are doing something really nice with their TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but I always see on my timeline. Like the players are very comfortable, like older players, in doing some bits to TikTok. So I don't know, just not about the new generation, but I think there are older players, they feel like really comfortable and they are funny. And the teams, like the social media is not using them.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot of that new, not only new generation of players, but new generation of professionals. Because the NHL has been ruled for so many years by white men and old white men, and
boring old white men.
Exactly. Let's just add adjectives to this sentence. And now we're seeing more women get involved with social media, with management, as we saw in the Canucks. It did not pan out that well, but they're there. And that's important. They're learning, they're growing, and they're opening us even more to those opportunities. And that's where the Swift, it's starting to see. We're starting to see that change.
Yeah.
And
it's like
as that is, there is some change.
Yeah,
a lot of the like through the years, it's always been white cis men ruling hockey, whatever you want to call it. But that's why I think they haven't been able to grow as fast as other sports leagues, because they don't have a different perspective. It's always just the same ideas over and over, and it's like people get tired of that. People get bored. Put someone of a different background, different cultures, a different upbringing. They're going to give you a completely different perspective on how they see this sport, how they can get people who grew up the same way they did to get interest into the sport.
And I think we need to see more players have individual deals with clothing brands. That's my take. One of my takes for the NHL. You have players, they literally have to wear formal to every single game, which to me, it sounds ridiculous, but it's okay.
I think it's the only league that does that. Like, you don't see players arriving for football games wearing suits. Like, only if the final is the final. But
if it's like a really important game,
suit, and that's it.
Yeah, if it's a really important game. I think I mentioned this to Luiza before, or even in Tic-Tac-Gol, that Bayern Munich had a deal with Giorgio Armani so everyone would only, like, if they went to away games in Champions League, they had to wear like Armani suits, and it was like they were all the same and everything, which is amazing, because if you let them wear what they want, sometimes it's a little bit weird, right? They don't have a lot of fashion sense, which is okay, but like you see in other sports, football again. I'm sorry, I have football references, and sorry to everyone who's watching this who doesn't watch
it's
football.
It's the biggest sport in the world, so it's easy. I know
yeah,
that it is. As a football fan, I know what we're talking about.
You see all tons of different players have like Calvin Klein deals. They're on tons of different like brand deals. Jack Grealish has a deal with Gucci. And you see him all flashy whenever in like different, like,
it's ugly, but he has personality.
Yes. He just won the Champions League, so congrats to him. Unfortunately, and so like I don't think the NHL doesn't see the full potential of their individuals. So there's a lot of space there.
Speaking of potential, like I think next season they are going to. They won't have in a deal with Adidas anymore. So I think that's the saddest part. Like, you don't have the bigger sports company like Adidas, Nike behind you. But come on, like, I think that's very concerning. When I read the new deal they have, I'm like really concerned about it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you mentioned about players should, get all these deals. I was immediately thinking about how the NHL doesn't seem marketable to these big brands, that they're actually saying, no, I'm good. I don't actually want to be your sponsor. Like, and they're just like, oh, that's fine.
I think Nike's behind NBA, like MLB, but they don't seem to be interested in doing something with NHL. So I think that's very concerning. But
Adidas has the MLS, and now they have Messi, so they just won. They don't have the NHL, but they have Messi, and that's enough for them.
That's
I know,
they can make way more money
shorts,
with Messi than the whole entire sports league.
I think we're going to see a lot of NHL people like worried about the MLS now that Messi went there, because MLS wasn't as big as the NHL. Even in the football world, they're kind of made fun of. The MLS is kind of made fun of. So no one really cares about them. But now they have Messi, so you kind of have to care about them a little bit more. And they are going to have more viewers. People are going to watch it more. So like,
I heard that the tickets went up from $82 to $400 something. It's like,
oh my god.
Yes, they went to 82 to 400 and since he was announced.
And they went from like 1 million followers to 6 million.
Then one ticket to the NBA final. So that's how big he is.
And a lot of people in the NHL are going to be like, oh, football, soccer went over us. Oh my god, what did we do wrong? Well, where did we
let me tell you.
Listen to our podcast.
How much time do you have?
Gary Bettman, I know
And
you were
it's
watching.
just a fun fact, they went from 1 million followers on Instagram to 6 million or something in like 2 days since Messi was announced, like more than 5 million.
And they are
So
wait. They are the Anaheim Ducks of MLS. They're literally on the bottom of the league right now. The team that Messi is going
They
to next
won't be for
season.
long.
They won't be for long.
Well,
sadly.
Man, imagine if my earthquakes got him. Something about this owner just does not want to spend any money to get good players out here, and it's like they're just so mediocre.
It shows.
Yeah, it does.
oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
but then you have a team with Messi and the owner is David Beckham, and it's like media dream. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
everyone wants to look at them. Oh my God.
It's funny. The MLS is where big football stars go to retire.
Oh, but that's it.
But it is true. Everyone's so upset that he went there. Like, he can play anywhere in the world. Why would he play the MLS?
Why
would he do
Florida?
that? Oh my God.
I don't
Why
mind
is
MLS.
this-
Why Florida?
Why Florida? Then
I
you
think
look at the contract and you're like, oh, I get it. Which
Okay.
he's getting like a percentage of all the funds that go to Apple TV, because Apple TV is like the season pass for the MLS. He has a percentage of that. He has a percentage of like actions from
Adidas endorsement as well. He will have.
he's like him as a player is endorsed by Adidas. He will be a part owner after he retires. That's on his deal that the team is obligated to give him actions for him to be a part owner of the team. Like, it's so crazy, and you're like, it works.
You can't say no
That's-
to Messi.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that the MLS has like, this is the one league that has this tiny like rule. They have a salary cap, but they can like, okay, you can have 2 players that are like over the limit of the salary. And then you have like Messi, which is like $400 million over the cap. Okay.
We can
NHL.
do a whole episode about the salary cap.
Yeah.
'Cause that's another issue.
Yeah.
That's stuff that
But-
really concerns me about the NHL.
But to wrap it up, just because
Yeah.
otherwise our beautiful editor Erica is gonna yell at us. We wanted to know, like, what is one thing you want to tell to our listeners, to anybody who is a part of the queer community, the LGBTQIA plus community, as like an advice, as an inspirational thing?
That's too much pressure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nessa. You
No,
can
Jay
start.
can go first. I need some time to think.
It's going to be a journey. It's definitely a journey. If you are a young person and you're growing up in an area that is not inclusive to you, I encourage you to seek out safe spaces. They might be few and far in between, but I have to hope that there's a friend or two out there that's genuine to help you through this difficult time. And if you are struggling with your identity, I would say that you are valid even in your questioning, and don't feel pressure to try and figure it out like now, because it's just a process and you'll know when you get there. And if you're a fan of this show, or if you are listening to other podcasts out there that you've found because they have voices who are inclusive, then I encourage you to continue holding on to these resources, because they will get you through some of your toughest days.
That
Well
was amazing.
said. Co-signed. No, just kidding. I would say in general, be patient. Kind of piggybacking off of what Jay said. If you're still figuring things out, be patient with yourself. You're not going to know the answer right away. If, you have come out and things aren't going the way that you planned or hoped, be patient. You'll find people who will support you. If it's your family that's not super supportive, there could be hope that they come around. If not, you will find your chosen family. It's going to be hard, but you have to be patient and understanding of not just like yourself and what you're going through, but like the people around you. We're living in a time where we want everything so immediate. The change we want to come, it's like we want it now, but in reality, that's not how life works. So find your chosen family, your support system to help you get through the tough times. But it's gonna be okay.
It will work out. Don't worry. At some point. Yeah. Thank you, guys. And to wrap it up, girls, do you have anything else to say? Camilla, Larissa?
I think that we want to create an inviting environment to our listeners and people that follow our podcast and on social media and stuff like that. I think that's our main goal. We want to talk about hockey, but we want to be inclusive as well.
Yeah. And Tic-Tac-Gol will always have an open arm and will always be a home to everyone. Everyone is welcome unless you're a bigot. If you're a bigot, you can pass along and move on.
I'd be surprised if they listen to the whole episode to get to that part.
Right? Exactly. But there are people who do that just to criticize.
My mom, for instance, so don't worry.
At least you get the view.
Yeah, exactly. At least we get the view. But okay, you guys talk about Over the Glass, do your little, as we say in Brazil, jabá, your ad for your podcast, for you guys. Go ahead. We don't have a lot of followers, but we give you the open space.
What to say? I mean, if you want to listen to a queer hosted / led podcast, we're here, mostly talking about hockey, but like the episode coming up next weekend, we're focusing a lot on very happy queer news going on around the world. So we'll have episodes where we'll focus on that specifically, just because there's just too much hate in the world and we want to focus on the positives.
Yeah, just want some laugh sometimes.
Yeah, pretty much just what Nessa said. We try to talk about some issues going on like in hockey, but we try to balance it with like fun things. And then obviously we're hockey fans, so like we like to talk about what's going on in the league. I mean, right now there's not a whole lot to talk about because these two teams in the finals, nah.
But final. That's my review about the Stanley Cup final. It's a final.
So yeah, so we try to, have a fun time on our podcast, and we occasionally bring on guests who are of interest to things that we want to talk about, and oftentimes they are folks within the queer community, people of color. Just we're trying to be another podcast out there in the world of hockey podcasts that are led by cis het white men, that I just think that we need more diversity in the voices within hockey, with a lot of things that we've talked about here on the podcast today. And so we're just trying to do a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Sprinkle some color into your lives.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you for accepting our invite. It has been a
pleasure. So nice to talk to you guys about not only Pride, but so many other things, because we that's how we work. Like, we always lose track, and that's why we have to always have like a little clock around us so we don't lose too much track of what we're talking about. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This is
Thank
actually
you
the
for
first
having
podcast
us.
we're coming on that's not ours.
Really? That's so cool.
You guys have
Exclusive.
the honor.
Yeah.
You're our first.
Oh, I love it. Well, girls, do you have anything else to add? Lottie, Camilla?
I don't.
No?
It's been. We talked a lot, right? Yeah.
It's been a time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, don't forget to follow Nessa and Jay. I was going to say Jude because I was thinking of them. But Nessa and Jay on their social media. Follow Over the Glass podcast. And we end here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.